Hey, what's going on, peeps? My name is Zyphon, and I recently started playing PUBG a few months ago. So far, I'm really enjoying it, and I decided to walk down the path of content creation. I'm planning to release some guides to help the community improve their own game. I'll be focusing on topics that mostly deal with decision making and the thought process that I use while in game. So, for my very first guide, I wanted to focus on the art of hunting other players. So, because this is the first video I'm doing, I want it to be something more interesting, not so basic like improving your mechanical aim or whatever. I want it to be something that you can go out there and use immediately after watching this. And let's face it, tracking somebody who has no idea you're following them, killing them, and then taking all their stuff, man, that's the best. Alright, so for this one, we'll be looking at 3 different times that I hunted people down, 2 of which were successful. The other one I kind of messed up because I got distracted. Alright, so for this one, we just got done looting the crater fields. I duo a lot with my buddy Frost, who right now his name is Elixir, but don't worry about that, he'll change that soon enough. So for this run through, I'll be doing a lot of commentating and going over what to look out for. So right here, we just sped it up a little bit, and you notice that there is no loot anywhere here, which is a good sign for us. That means someone was just here. And because this is the beginning of the match, it's very likely that they're still around. So right now our goal is to hit up the nearest buildings. We can find which are these, the barn and the set of buildings a little bit further up. So as you're running along, you want to keep an eye out. So right here, we spot a guy running towards the middle building, the long one. So we immediately push him. Now, the reason we decided to do this instead of camping the green building is that the green building has likely already been looted, so they're not gonna, approach it again. Alright, so now that we arrived at the compound where our target is, there's a couple of things we have to think about before we can attack. First, we have to remember where we saw our target and the direction he was heading. Because we saw our target heading towards the middle from the left side, there's a pretty good chance he'll be on the right. So now that we know where our target's going to be, we can now think about where he will be after he's done looting this compound. With the first circle about to begin closing, we can assume he will not go too far. So we will set up a trap along the edge of the circle and wait for the target to come back. So now we begin to push to the left to get in position along the wall. We need to keep our eyes on the windows to make sure our opponent doesn't double back to surprise us. We have to be careful not to make a whole lot of sound while at the same time listening for our opponent. Frost and I split up to cover multiple angles, so that we increase our chance of securing the kill. Just please do not loot until you verify that the area is safe. So we continue to listen for his teammate, but he never shows up. Alright guys, moving on to clip number 2. We decided to land here because we've never been here and wanted to check out the surrounding area. But as we're about to leave the compound, we hear some footsteps, which of course means, you guessed it, free loot. This is where being aggressive pays off. Now that we finished looting those bodies, it's time to head northwest towards the circle. So when you're roaming around the map towards new locations, it is always important to keep an eye out for signs of other players. So some things to look out for include doors that are open, broken windows, missing loot, vehicles parked in odd locations, or even their taillights turned on. So here it is super obvious that people have been here because the doors have been opened. The people who we just killed were in the barn, which is in the southern end of the compound we were just at, which means this area was looted by a different group. Now the next hunt begins. Looking ahead towards these buildings, you can see that some of the doors have not been opened, despite our close proximity to the looted buildings we just left. So this means that our targets either went east towards the crater or west towards better buildings. So I mean, at this point, you could either go in either direction, depending on whatever you want to choose, or you can loot this place because you still need gear yourself. It's not really hard to figure out which one we chose. So earlier, when we first found those buildings that were looted, you may have noticed that we did not move in a stealthy fashion. The reason for this is because of a few factors. First off, those buildings were very close to the path the plane took at the start of the match. That means it is highly unlikely that they are still there. When you combine that with the fact that there were few buildings there and the amount of time it took us for us to get there, you can usually assume that the targets are long gone. Now don't worry, with a little bit of experience, you won't make an ass out of yourself. Usually. Earlier we deduced that the current targets either went east or west, so we decided to head west because of the current location of the circle. So again, we do not take a stealthy approach because we looted the last compound we were just at. Also, because none of these buildings are within the boundaries of the circle, it gives incentive for the other players to move along. So I begin heading towards the graveyard. It is extremely important to note that this shed has been opened. This means that our target has a greater chance of heading towards graveyard instead of the industrial site to the north. I wait up on Frost to catch up because, well, he's a dumpster diver. I mean, it is kind of justified because he always finds some boosters or some sweet ass attachment that, by the way, I claim I saw first, and therefore I call dibs on it. But, you know, he never gives me the item because he doesn't know what calling dibs means. I also wait because I really don't want to approach this compound solo and just get molested. Now is the time to be a little more sneaky. There are lots of places to loot here, which means our targets are likely finishing up. Notice that the doors have been opened, indicating places where they have been. So therefore we decided to move deeper into the compound. With the gunshots coming from across the street, we stay along the outer edge of graveyard and check the building along the outskirts. By verifying if this building has been looted, we can then assume that the gunshots we heard earlier are indeed our targets. We clearly see the doors open, so we decided to creep up while listening for footsteps coming from within the building. It is important to make haste because the gunshots indicate a fight. When there's a fight, there are bodies to be looted, so we have no idea how quick these guys will loot. By the way, most people loot really slow. Now that we have confirmed the location of our targets, we can now approach. They were jumping up and down around the convertible with excitement. Now in the wild, this means they are close to finishing up and are getting ready to move along. So I move towards them, but we move with the tree blocking our field of view. We want to reduce the chance of being detected by staying out of their field of view. We hear another vehicle drive towards the buildings, which is a great thing for us because it is a distraction. We need to approach quickly because people tend to tunnel vision on moving vehicles. Unfortunately, our targets died in the middle of the road, and shit has been popping off here for quite a while. The shots came from the hill towards the graveyard / the industrial area, so I break line of sight and heal up. We decide to hang around and see where the next circle will end up. We end up getting very lucky and decide to defend this edge because of our amazing position. We spend the next minute double checking these buildings and verifying no one else is around us.
Yeah, the guy further to the right. I'm being shot at from somewhere else now. Oh, way up there.
Not bad, so we secure more kills and loot. We get a few more kills after this, but let's move on now that we finished our hunt. Alright, moving to our final example, we are heading towards shooting range. This is our favorite place to go, by the way, so never come here. Here we notice two groups. One is heading east towards the roads, The other is heading towards the hills in the south. We want to target the players that are in the hills because there are less buildings they could go to and they are more isolated. Alright, so now we're going to loot this place, and once we're done, we're going to go chase those guys down. Another important thing is that when you're running around in the open, you have to constantly be scanning your surroundings to make sure there's no one else running next to you. Now, I know this is super obvious, but I always see players not doing this. By the way, I have no idea why people prefer this map. I mean, sure, it was the first one that came out, and whoop-de-doo for that, but the desert map is way better. I mean, there are way more buildings spread across the desert map, which makes running around way less boring. Alright, so same deal as before. Our targets landed here, so they are probably not here. However, we have to stay on guard and keep our ears open. Make sure you check those doors, make sure you check the windows. You do not want to get shot. Getting shot? No bueno, people. No bueno. So now we move on to the next set of buildings, which is very logical given where they landed. So now we approach slowly because we are starting to close in. Make sure you continue to listen for those stomping sounds as you approach. Now I know my crosshair placement is pretty shitty, but I trust my ability to flick shot 100%. Just make sure that you keep your eyes on the windows. From my angle, I do not see doors open, so I proceed to enter. I haven't heard any stomping, so I feel pretty safe right now, but stay alert. With the internal doors open, yet the external doors closed, this indicates a player has been here but is trying to throw us off this trail, so we do a quick sweep of the building just in case. From here we continue south towards the bunkers we have placed. We're getting very close to our targets and are getting even more excited than a toothbrush in a hot dog factory. Now when tracking other players, you have to remember that you will not be accurate 100% of the time. Sometimes they go left when you think they went right. It's just how it works. It's okay to make mistakes and fail. And as proof, I have decided to include this clip.
Hardware left.
Looks like I did not guess wrong. I just got distracted and made a bad judgment call. But I was still right in the direction the targets went, and that counts for something. Alright guys, thank you for sticking around and look forward to some more content. Also check out my stream that I totally did not just start up, which I totally just did.